Big Mommy Fleurdelys is finally here, and this video is the ultimate build guide you need for her in order to maximize her damage. It includes everything you need to know about her from basic to advanced knowledge, so without any further ado, let's jump right into it. Starting with her kit. Cartethia's damage scales on HP and most of her damage is considered as basic attack damage. As you can see, there are 3 small swords on Cartethia's Forte circuit bar, corresponding to the Sword of Divinity, Sword of Discord, and Sword of Virtue. Cartethia's 4th basic attack, Heavy Attack, Intro skill, and Resonance skill can each activate one of these 3 swords respectively. The Intro skill lets us start from a stage 2 basic attack, which is quite helpful. Then if Cartethyia uses a mid-air attack, it will deal damage based on the number of swords activated. The damage is extremely high, and the mid-air attack damage is considered as arrow erosion damage. Her heavy attack summons a black hole, providing slight crowd control, but is never really used unless in solo. When Cartethyia uses her resonance skill, she immediately ascends into air, so if you press the attack button right after the skill, she will perform a mid-air attack right away. Each sword consumed with this attack grants buffs to her Fleurdelys form, which we will discuss in a bit. She applies 1 arrow erosion with her 4th basic attack, 2 from intro skill and 2 from resonance skill. When Cartethia's liberation energy is full and she uses her resonance liberation, she transforms into Fleurdelys. If her HP was above 50% before transforming, it will drop exactly to 50%. This is not much of a problem as Cartethyia has very high HP. After transforming, all of Cartethia's skills change completely. Additionally, Cartethyia gains a 12-second buff called Manifest, which activates these 3 effects. She gains 60% arrow damage increase. During these 12 seconds, as long as you haven't unlocked the special Resonance Liberation yet, pressing the Resonance Liberation button will let you transform back to Cartethyia. The 12 seconds Manifest buff timer will pause until you transform back to Fleurdelys. The benefit is you can weave transformations to Cartethyia form into Fleurdelys rotation. Since both the form resonance skills have separate cooldown, you can use Fleurdelys resonance skill, switch to small form, then use hers. This is not really used in a team as it will extend the rotation, but can be used in solo to reapply arrow erosion. The second effect activates when you perform Cartethia's 3 sword mid-air attack before transforming. You gain 3 buffs while Manifest is active. Fleurdelys' 4th basic attack freezes enemies. This is important because her 4th and 5th basic attacks have long animations. It also increases her resistance to interruption. Enemies near Fleurdelys take 50% more arrow erosion damage, but arrow erosion triggers twice as fast every 1.5 seconds instead of 3 seconds. This isn't necessarily good because a special resonance liberation needs arrow erosion stacks to maximize its damage. Certain attacks, 5th basic attack, 2nd mid-air attack, enhanced heavy attack, and 2nd resonance skill hit will copy the highest arrow erosion stack from one enemy to all nearby enemies. However, her attacks will immediately consume 1 arrow erosion stack when hitting enemies. Combined with the faster 1.5 trigger rate, this makes arrow erosion stacks deplete very quickly. Any attack in Fleurdelys form, basic attacks, skills, heavy attacks, generates her Forte stacks called Conviction. She has a 5-hit basic attack combo. The 5th hit animation is a bit long but deals very high damage. She can cast heavy attack and pressing a normal attack button after it will cast an enhanced heavy attack which has very good multiplier. Her resonance skill creates a field and lifts her up, allowing her to cast mid-air attacks. Holding the basic attack will make her cast the mid-air attack 3 and dive down. But mid-air attacks 1 and 2 have more damage than basic attack 3. I will let you know when to use which attack in the rotation section. You can cast the skill again which makes her dive down. After which, pressing attack continues the basic attack chain from 3rd hit. When Fleurdelys has max Forte points, she can cast an enhanced resonance liberation, dealing very high damage. Its damage is increased by 20% for each stack of arrow erosion on enemies up to 5 times. This attack also restores 50% of her HP. Her inherent skill increases her healing received by team members, and Arrow Rover gains extra Forte points after using his liberation, which is really good. The second inherent skill increases her damage based on the stacks of arrow erosion on target. Her outdoor skill amplifies the arrow damage of other characters on enemies with negative statuses like arrow erosion. For her talent priority, level her Forte circuit, then liberation, followed by basic attacks, then resonance skill and intro skill. Out of these, I would recommend maxing out only the Forte, liberation and basic attacks. For her weapons, her signature weapon is a best-in slot weapon and by a very huge margin over the Emerald of Genesis because she is a HP scaling character and won't benefit from the attack buff. The signature gives her a ton of HP and also lets her ignore target's defenses. The next best option is Camellia's signature Dead Spring cause it increases basic attack damage which is good for Cartethyia. The Two other 5 stars can be used as crit statistics, and Unflickering Valor is similar to them cause its passive is good and the low base attack doesn't matter for her. If you don't have any of these weapons, you can use Guardian Sword for the HP percent. Moving on to her echoes. The best echo set for Cartethyia is the new echo set Windward Pilgrimage. It increases crit rate and arrow damage, making it the best option. The echo skill will be Fleurdelys. It now drops in this set too. Gusts of Welkin with the Fleurdelys echo skill and Sierra Gale with the Nightmare Fairy and Beringal are other alternatives. For her echo pattern, the best one with the Windward Pilgrimage will be 44111. Fleurdelys will be in the main slot and the other new echo, Kelpie, will be in the second slot, both of them on crit stats, and HP percent on 1 cost echo. That being said, there's barely any difference between this and the standard 43311 pattern with double arrow damage. But 44111 patterns are usually easier to farm, so use the pattern on which you have better echoes. For the 3 cost echoes, you can replace one with HP percent, although slightly worse, it is a decent option. And for substats, first you need enough energy regen. Aim for around 10 to 20%, which is usually enough for most of our teams. Then prioritize crit stats, followed by HP percent, basic attack damage bonus, liberation damage and flat HP. Moving on to her team comps. The best support for her is obviously going to be Chakona, who is tailor-made for her, giving the best buffs, applying consistent arrow erosion and dealing good personal damage. And when using Chakona, it is essential to use the arrow rover in the 3rd slot as he increases the max stacks of arrow erosion, letting Cartethyia fully benefit from her kit. He also provides arrow damage amplification with his sword, and Fleurdelys can shorten his rotation with her forte recovery for the rover. Since Cartethyia cannot benefit from the rejuvenating glow set, it is better to use a rover with a DPS set like Windward Pilgrimage or the Sierra Gale. If you don't have Chakona, that's fine. You can use a buffer like Sanwa in her place or play a quick swap team with Changli, as Cartethyia has long animations and many swap cancel windows. I will mention her swap cancel windows in a bit. Similar to Changli, there are other quick swap DPS that you can pair her with. In the last slot can be a support like Shorekeeper, Varina or Arrow Rover. Without Chakona, it is better to use Shorekeeper or Varina as they have stronger buffs. For sustain supports like Shorekeeper and Varina, it's better to use the Bellborn Geochelon Echo skill instead of Fallacy of No Return. Now that we are done with the basic info, let's move on to her rotation and some advanced techs. Starting with her basic rotation suitable for most of her teams. Start with her intro skill which will give her a sword. Immediately start with her basic attack stage 2, 3 and 4 for the next sword. Use a resonance skill which will give all the 3 sword and launch her in mid-air. Then use a basic attack to cast her mid-air attack. Use her ultimate to turn to mommy. Use a skill which will send her in air. Hold the basic attack button to cast her mid-air attack stage 3 and plunge down. Use the skill again to do her basic attack 3, 4, 5. Then do her enhanced heavy attack which is casted by doing a heavy attack plus basic attack. By now the forte should be filled. Use liberation and outro to main DPS. You can use your echo skill however you like. I prefer to use it after transforming into Fleurdelys as it gives some energy. This rotation is best for non-Chakona teams as it slightly reduces the consumption of arrow erosion stacks. If you have Chakona in the team or if you have Cartethia's S3, the arrow erosion stacks will be mostly at maximum. So after using the skill in Fleurdelys form, you can do mid-air attack 1 and 2 instead of third one, which leads to slightly higher DPS. However, if the enemy has low HP, going with the shorter rotation is better. In order to make her rotations faster, you can use animation cancels. In Cartethyia form, you can cancel the short delay after a 4th basic attack animation with a resonance skill or jump. You can cancel the delay after a mid-air attack with a liberation. Make sure to time it correctly so as to not miss out on the damage. In Fleurdelys form, you can cancel the mid-air attack stage 3's delay with her skill 2, and her enhanced heavy attacks delay with her second ultimate. These are just few tips to min-max her damage. Of course, for casual players, just following the initial rotation I mentioned is enough to clear the hardest contents. Now let's move on to a bit more advanced info. Her swap cancel windows which you need to know for quick swap teams like with Changli. Here are some of the prominent swap cancel windows. In Cartethyia form, you can swap cancel the resonance skill. You can use a skill and swap out to other character. Use some of their attacks while Cartethyia finishes her animation. Do keep in mind that later you need to jump and do a mid-air attack to activate the sword buffs. Her basic attack stage 4 can be swap cancelled as well, but you can just cancel its animation with her skill. During her Fleurdelys form, you can swap cancel her second resonance skill. Make sure you don't swap out after the first skill. cause that will reset the second skill's cooldown. All of these abilities can be swapped out as long as an outro buff which gets removed with swap is not present. You can deal damage with other character while Fleurdelys finishes her long animations. Even without someone like Changli, we can make use of this in a team with Arrow Rover to speed up his foot and concerto generation while Fleurdelys is in her animation. Moving on to her sequences. Her first sequence is not that great when you compare it with something like a similar investment like her weapon or a Chakona for your team. The first half of the passive is conditional and applies arrow erosion on new targets after defeating one. However, this can be very helpful in whimpering wastes. The next half of the sequence increases her crit damage as per her forte points in Fleurdelys state. It is around 13% damage increase. The H2 is a very big upgrade and arguably the best H2 we have. It completely removes the need of a Arrow Rover as Cartethyia can trigger it with a Liberation and further applies 3 erosion stacks with the next attack. This attack triggers the arrow erosion damage once on nearby enemies without consuming any stacks. It further increases the damage multipliers of a small form and reduces skill cooldown by 3 seconds. This sequence is a huge DPS increase for her. And the third sequence is present to get rid of a red hair bard. It allows Fleurdelys to apply arrow erosion with some of her attacks. It further increases the damage multiplier of her second Liberation. The fourth sequence is a team-wide buff. The fifth sequence provides sustainability. And sixth sequence triples the damage of S0 Cartethyia. So it's basically a bunch of attacks allowing her to apply max erosion stacks. And once it is max, it triggers the arrow erosion damage without consuming them. And the targets take 40% more damage from Fleurdelys. So Cartethyia, if you have a premium team, is the ultimate power creep. Even without her premium team, she has some great F2P options. She has high interruption resistance in the big form while making her really easy to use. She has many swap cancel windows and the best animations in the game. And that's all for this video. I hope you guys enjoyed it. Don't forget to like and share the video and subscribe for more Wuthering Waves content. Thanks for watching.